Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to invite us to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to approve the minutes of the 1/28/25 regular meeting.
So moved. Second.
Questions or comments? Some people booting up computers. I'll give you a few seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Need a motion to approve the 2/4/25 special meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That brings us around to my comments, right?
Yeah.
Don't have an abundance of comments, just want to update folks on the process for the superintendent search keeps rolling along. We've had opportunity to have some conversations and keep working the process under the guidance of Dr. Matt Cook from OCM BOCES. And if not already, soon we'll start the stakeholder conversations. I had a conversation with Matt today. He said he's begun that process, and so be continuing to expand the loop of conversations around folks to get more information as we go. So that'll be coming. Also, just want to share, I did receive correspondence from one of the persons that applied, and if you'd like to see the card, come see me. I'll be happy to share that.
For my comments, I just wanted to share a little bit of information and background. I know folks have become intimately acquainted with the alternative transportation model. But just in a nutshell, to talk about how we came at that. As you know, we needed to go because of a shortage of drivers on a particular day in our transportation department. We couldn't get kids to school. And so we reluctantly went to a virtual learning model, which I will say the staff did an excellent job. Luckily, we had a day to prep, and I will say they fell back on some of the experiences of COVID, which isn't pleasant for anybody to think about, but they did an outstanding job. But that really isn't a long-term plan, something that we want to do any more than we have to. And so Mike and I had spent some time sitting with our transportation supervisor and her staff and looking at almost a worst case scenario, take us down to the least number of drivers that we could have on any given day, but would still allow us to bring those students to school and have a full day of instruction. And so that's what we had then communicated to our families, that on any given day, I hope we never get there, but if we need to, I can simply announce, like I do for 2-hour delays and school closures, that we're on an alternative transportation, or the alternative transportation model. And they would know what time their child would be picked up, because the transportation department sent all that information home. It's just a way to get us so that we don't have to go to a virtual model unless we get way down the path, which I'm hopeful that we won't get to. But I wanted to entertain any questions anybody had about that.
Do we know how many families does that affect, that alternate
What,
busing?
well, what we're doing is we're combining runs. So in one way, shape, or form, almost everyone is affected by it, some more than others because there's more of a cluster of students in one part of the district than the other. But all of those folks have been notified at what, it might be 3-4 minutes difference that their children are being picked up. It could be 10 or 15 minutes depending on where they live and the cluster of students. So all of those folks have been notified, and again, we hope we don't have to use it, but if we do, now we have that at our disposal.
Did we get any feedback from them? Were they overall?
No, we got some feedback though about the virtual learning model, right? Like as I mentioned, it did bring back some concerns from, but not a lot. I mean, it was under 10 that I received anyway, where folks were asking questions about it. But then once we explained what we were going to try to do moving forward, it really haven't heard anything. Anybody else?
How did attendance turn out for that
Right, yep.
How did that go?
I haven't checked, I could get you that though.
I'm just curious
Yeah.
if a majority of children were able to follow through on that part.
Yeah, no, be happy to. Anybody else? All right, thank you.
We'll move on to our board presentations, starting with budget.
Yes, Michael has some information that he's going to share with you. Michael?
Yeah, thank you. So we'll have just a brief presentation tonight, because I know that we have two this evening. Kelly, you can-
There is one in the back.
Look at that. Old school. So, as part of our presentation tonight, we wanted to talk about just the overview of the governor's proposal. We had shared last time in our budget meeting that most districts were looking to receive a 2% increase in foundation aid, and our number came in directly at 2%. So we're looking at an increase of $393,172 just in foundation aid. The other portions to take a look at, just kind of in the key points of the proposal. Transportation aid, there wasn't a substantial change to that aid going from 24-25 to 25-26. One of the biggest things to look at where we're at right now, and looking at our current capital project. So when we went out with phase one, we did a preliminary bond for $17 million. So the total project was put out at $24 million. When we went into phase two and phase three, we then bonded for the full amount of $24 million. So in looking at that, when we go out to the bonding with the bond companies, they of course are going to look for their bond payments, so the payments back from the district. In the situation that we're in now, we're currently finishing up phase one and phase two. What we were able to do is work with New York State to put in what's an early aid. So we were able to receive aid before phase one was completed. So on all the finished work to date, by December 1st, we were able to submit that to the state to receive aid for our current year, and then going forward, we'll receive aid on the project. However, we won't receive 100% of the aid until all three phases are complete. So what does that mean? We are receiving aid, not the full amount of aid, so as we go through the 15-year payment back of the project, the payments or the aid received will increase, but going into next year, we don't have that full amount. So the aid number increased. It's not at what we would consider 100% of the aid. So when we build the budget, we may need to offset that out of our debt service reserve for a year, knowing going forward the reliance on that may decrease because we'll receive the full amount of aid. So again, it's a good thing that we were able to apply for the early start aid. We worked very hard with our financial consultants and with the folks working on the project just to get aid into this year for the project. Any questions on that piece of it? So the last part, our BOCES aid projection for next year will increase just based on our cost increases and our service increase this year for 24-25. So that's just kind of a brief overview of the governor's budget proposal. And again, these numbers will change. As we move towards April, we'll then have the legislative budget come out, which again is agreement between the governor and then the legislative group. So it's a good sign that our foundation aid has increased 2%. That's a really good sign going into it. Usually we're waiting to see that number jump substantially going from the governor to the legislators. Any questions? So our next part to take a look at is that at the end of this month, we'll be asked to vote on the tax cap or the tax levy limit. So what I have, and we provide this every year, is our chart to show what our tax levy threshold or limit was, and then what our actual increase ended up being. So you can see there were years that you look at 15, 16 through 17, 18. We didn't increase the tax levy. Why? Because prior to that, New York State had withheld a substantial piece of our foundation aid. They were nice enough not to give us more, but restore what they had taken back. So during that time period, we really didn't feel we needed to increase taxes because we had that steady flow of revenue coming in. Then you look at 18-19 and 19-20, and then going into 2021, when we set those budgets up, again, you see that slight increase, 1.9%. In 21-22, we went out at 1%. That's when the federal COVID money started to come in. So we really had a large offset of federal revenue coming in to our budget, so we didn't have that reliance on taxes. After that, again, the federal monies were quite strong for the next 2 years, going out at 0%. And again, what you can see, the thresholds continued to grow, and I'll explain about that in a second. Last year, the rubber hit the road, the federal money went away. We had programs in place that we really felt were necessary and wanted to keep based on what we had put in with the federal money. And again, we went out at a 2.9% tax increase. So I told you in the last meeting I would not show you the video, but I couldn't help myself, as Mrs. Falls reminded me, that I did have to show just the formula. The ever confusing tax levy limit formula. Remember, it started off calling it the 2% tax cap. The only thing that's 2% is a multiplier in the formula if the consumer price index is 2% or more. Your inflation is 2% or more, which we know it's at more, but 2% would be the max. The key piece to this, and I highlight it, for all the years that we went out at that 0% or under the levy limit, there's a difference called a carryover limit. With that carryover limit, when you choose not to tax, a portion of that threshold you didn't use rolls to the next year, which if you just went straight up and didn't put that in, our tax levy thresholds would be a lot less. So that's a key point to know, that we've been fortunate. They allow you to carry that number over. So instead of taxing, you still benefit by not taxing in that formula. So I shared in the last meeting this slide, but it's important to know that when we take a look at this, the actual levy for this year is $17,535,266. If you then go ahead and look at our levy limit for next year, it's a difference of $734,514. It's a 4.19% increase. This is the limit that you could go out at without having to have a supermajority vote. So the next slide is an important one because this goes back to 14 and shows you on the top in the gray all of our tax increases over those years. The green represents the actual voter turnout, or how it was passed by. So you can see our lowest year, it was passed by 67% of the voters. And again, the orange represents the total number of votes. Why was it high in these 2 years, kind of a spike? Those are the years that they discussed closing Truxton School. We had a great number of voters out at that time. Again, that kind of lessened after that. Our voting percentages were high. And then we came to the 2021 vote. Why was this so high? During COVID, we had to provide all taxpayers with the ability to send in the ballot, which we mailed to them, folks mailed back, and we had 1,500 voters that year with a 75% pass rate. Anywhere our lowest in 2023 was 394 voters came out, and of the 394 voters, you had a 91% pass rate. So again, we've looked at the numbers, and you try to look at the correlation of, is there an impact? It seems more that there's a social impact to the number of voters out. And again, you're not going to see a huge fluctuation in the yes votes. So we've all been well over, even in years where we passed a higher tax levy or a tax levy at all, we've been well above that threshold of 66%, which is a super majority. So just threw a lot at you. Any questions on this? So coming up at the February 25th meeting, we're going to have the tax levy percentage for voter approval. Just a reminder with that tax levy percentage, you're not deciding how much at this point you're gonna dedicate. This is just saying, Mike, we acknowledge that this is the number you're putting in front of us as the tax levy limit, and we are voting to say this is the limit. We do not have to decide whether you're going to exceed it or go below it at this point. That'll happen later on in April. Any other questions? Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Next up, we have a couple of members from our construction management firm, LaChase, Lee Stepp and Laird Updike here. Last time, we shared some information about the capital project, and I've asked Laird and Lee to join us tonight, give us an overview of the work done. Some of us were here back in 2021, others weren't. So you'll see some information about some of the great work that's been done. And then they'll also address some of those things that are still remaining and the tentative timeline to remediate some of those. So, gentlemen, Lee, Laird, thanks for coming tonight. Appreciate it.
Good evening. All right, let's begin the review with the intermediate junior high school. Just to recap what was accomplished throughout the project, or what was the scope of the project. Extensive window replacements, skylight and exterior door replacements, predominantly on the junior high side, and the majority of the intermediate school as well. Home and careers renovations, which is now an agricultural classroom. The junior high library renovations, the intermediate library renovations, 10 bathroom renovations throughout the building. Site improvements, which includes the traffic pattern changes, the parent drop-off, drainage improvement, and a new playground. The nurses suite renovations and roofing replacements, which included a fleece back membrane overlay over across everything. And building-wide fire alarm replacements, mechanical unit replacements at the junior high school predominantly, as well as the gymnasiums, and the OTBT renovations, and the next to the intermediate gymnasium, and auditorium, AV, and lighting enhancements. Also, the gymnasium bleachers were replaced, and during the course of the project, it was determined to add winches to your backstops for the ease of raising and lowering them. That's an overview of what was accomplished there. At the high school, we had bathroom renovations at 11 locations. The new softball field where the baseball field was. The site work contractor is going to return in the spring. They have some remedial work that needs to be done there as well. Due to the press box being delivered late by the vendor, the grass needed time to grow. And by the time that was done being stirred, they're going to need to come back this spring to make that grow the right way. So the relocation of the compactor, trash compactor out closer, or at the corner of Copeland and Park. Main entrance stair and landing coating down the stairs and the upper landing and the lower landing were part of the project as well. And the ADA warning surfaces at the bus loop are scheduled to be replaced. They were a late add to the project, but they're in significant disrepair out there, and they were incorporated into the project. Just due to the winter, we're actually having winter this year, the opportunity just isn't there to be out there. At the elementary school, we call it Area C, which is the a part of the building that extends out toward James Street. Two of the classrooms had window replacement as well as extensive brick facade replacements out there. And we added in casework as the renovations were going on. It was time for that to happen as well. The James Street lot and a new cardboard laydown area, that the old area was moved from the opposite side of the building back to behind the building. And there was a significant site drainage improvements to maintain your water on site and collect it underground in the new parking area. 6 bathroom renovations throughout the building, mostly in Area C and the second floor, the 2 main bathrooms off the library. ADA railing replacements at the stairwells, replacement of the overhead electrical feed to the building with an underground electric, as well as the data that serves the building. Hopefully everybody appreciates the improvement there. That was quite an undertaking. And the perimeter fencing was replaced throughout the property. We didn't touch on the bus garage here, but there was also a lift replacement on the project that happened during the course of the project. Here we have some before and after photos. This is an example of bleachers being replaced at the gymnasium. Painting of both gymnasiums was incorporated into the project. And as I mentioned earlier, the winches being added to the backstops there. And the district also refinished the floor with new line work. The space really pops again. I hope everybody appreciates that. This is an example of the bathroom renovations. On the left is what you had before and what we're experiencing now. A lot of the bathrooms still have the floor coating to be performed yet. The district has opted to do that in-house to bring the cost down. The intermediate library had an extensive renovation. That's a great space. It's interesting to see some STEAM stuff being added into there with an opportunity there. The junior high library, this really pops. I really like how this turned out. The junior high library is a favorite space. Home and careers, the ag classroom. You can see how dated it was on the left, and with the changes during the course of the project, we've delivered what's there. They still have 2 microwaves they got to install or provide power to on the electrical contractor side, and there's a sink that is a warranty item that the plumbing contractor in phase 1 is going back to knock out this phase 1. Just to go over closeout status, just to give an example of the punch list process that we had. During the course of the project for phase 1, we issued 156 individual items under all the contractors to take care of. We're down to 6 that we've issued them to the result. We've got 3 of those items that are extensive fire alarm removal items that still need to be addressed, and the contractor needs through the end of the month to complete those. So we have brand new fire alarm systems at the elementary school and the intermediate school. Instead of the screeching sound that you were used to at those buildings, you now have an audible system where the students leave based on that. Any feedback on that system? Any improvements?
I don't see anybody walking around like this.
Right, it's got to be a noted improvement.
Which is good, yeah.
On to phase 2, it was a smaller project. There were 22 items that we issued that are mostly involving bathrooms and tile work that we caught, and the 8 remaining items are predominantly a site work, and I mentioned them coming back in the spring to do that. Right now, operation and maintenance information as well as warranty information is being collected so that we can deliver it to the district, so that that transitions there, so that the warranty period goes on beyond the project. You have all the information you need to maintain your projects. As a reminder, the district is holding 5% retainage on all contracts that are open still, okay, until final closeout has been achieved. So there's an extensive list that they need to provide to us to assure that we're closing the project out correctly. Phase 1 contracts that are already closed, the roofing contractor is done, the digital signage is done, the phase 1 plumbing contractor is done, and they're responding to warranty items as well, and the playground contracts are closed as well. And that brings us to questions and answers.
I have a couple questions. Are you aware that in the intermediate gym, the backboards don't click into position? Is that something that's on the warranty that you're aware of? That?
Yeah.
Okay.
And to elaborate on that,
Yeah.
those are existing backstops that winches were added to. And there's a D10 on a couple items, a couple of backstops that need encouragement to do that. It doesn't operate smooth, but we've engaged the contractor that did the work too, and it's not something that it's going to be overcome unless the backstops are fully replaced. And that's not an option.
Okay, understood. I had asked when I went through the OT-PT room that's gonna go in the intermediate, there's gonna be like an awesome floor that goes in. Is that gonna be degassed? Is that gonna be moved out and degassed before it's installed? That's gonna have an odor to it?
So with the OT-PT area, the district is providing the flooring that goes in there. It's not under the contract to do that for any of the contractors to do. We
Okay.
are encouraging that those areas be sealed in advance of the flooring going down, and we're gonna have the GC do that before that flooring go down.
So we should be aware that that floor is gonna come with an odor.
We've used that floor in other buildings.
Yeah.
When we did the fitness center at the junior high school, it's the same material that we used, and we're aware of anything that we need to look into to make sure that it's appropriate for occupancy.
We also have the new blower coil units that are in that space that can be ramped up to exit that smell should you encounter it too. Just food for thought when that goes down. It's worth increasing the volume there
For sure.
for airflow.
Did you do the heaters, install the heaters in the junior high and in the elementary? There was some of the.
We
rooms that-
oversaw the unit ventilators going into junior high school. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes,
Okay.
and the ones in the classrooms at the elementary, and
There
those
were
two
no,
new classrooms?
there were no new unit ventilators at that elementary school. Those are existing.
The junior high had some heat systems put in, and on to the side of them, it wasn't a total, perfect fit, and on the side, there was a foam piece that was put in. I personally think that possibly that should be maybe updated with like using a break and sheet metal and throwing it in. I don't think foam is gonna be sustainable for that age group and the purpose and for cleaning. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I've
Looking
seen
at me
it.
like you're not,
I've seen what you're talking
you
about.
do know what I'm talking about. Is it possible to have a more durable something installed there?
Not without adding some additional brake metal on top of that. Because we have existing cabinetry, the metal cabinetry, that works with the new unit ventilators going in there. It's not going to be a perfect fit. So in order to seal around that, the contractor has installed foam. But we can look at alternatives to make that more robust as well.
I think it's
I'll
worth
engage the
considering
contractors.
for the durability. I think foam, you can pick at it. And I think cleaning in that area can become, it's gonna degrade. Those are some of my questions. When, oh, absolutely. Realistically, like what are some of those things, like I know there was some bathrooms that were, possibly wanting a little bit more coverage from the door.
So it's important to know that all the bathrooms that we've done between the elementary school and high school are temporary doors.
She's
Okay?
talking about the partitions
Yeah, and the L.
that we've already agreed upon, that they're being enlarged so that the sight lines into the bathroom.
Oh, yeah. That
Yeah, how
change-
long's that gonna take?
That change order went out last week for
Okay.
additional toilet partitions so that your students are screened from the corridor in the
Yes.
event that the door's left open. So that's a recent change
Awesome.
that we've added in there.
Okay.
And I don't have a lead time for you since the change order went out last week. I can get back to you as far as when you get that lead time.
That'd be great. Okay, thank you. Very nice. Anyone else?
Tom, if I could, just real quick before we wrap up.
Sure.
Just a statement to the board and the community. In a capital project like this, there's usually only so much volume of work you can do in the summer and in school occupied times, because there's not just empty buildings and swing space, right? So in schools, we use kind of as a rule of thumb, is a busy month of production is about $1 million of volume. That's about $1 million of billing taken from the contractors, each month. Busy summer months when you can get a lot of site work done and roofing done, which we did accomplish both in this project, both summers. Sometimes you can get upwards of like 2 million of volume. This summer here, between phase 1 and phase 2 happening congruently, the contractors in both phases and our teams here and the architect all supported a project that billed 2 million each in July and August and September. We had 6.6 million in billing in the 3 months of July, August, and September. And that's just, it's being in the industry 25 years, it's a number that is impressive. You know, we talk about it amongst our teams and what amount of work is getting managed on different projects, and it's a near high water mark for us. And you know, it just goes to show, you know, there was some challenges here in terms of overseeing all of this work. We brought in auxiliary manpower on our team to help supplement that, and you know, there's a lot of things that we wish could have gone a little smoother with the contractors, trying to manage 2 different phases with 2 different sets of contractors. And I just want to say that the team as a whole, all the contractors, you know, did well and did a lot of work here. So, and then the last part of the project, the 5% at the end is one of the most difficult portions of the project to accomplish. You've got a lot of contractors that are moving on to other projects. That's not an excuse, but we hold 5% retainage in their contracts. So there's that motivation, that financial incentive for them to return and finish up their work and get paid final. And some contractors that it's not a motivation, so we're constantly trying to push them along through this last percentage, and it's challenging for all of us, and we appreciate the patience of the district putting up with living with some of these last minute punch list items, you know, or these long lasting punch list items is what I meant to say. And our team is constantly pushing the contractors to come back here. Unfortunately, they don't work for us, so you know, there's only so much we can do to incentivize them to come back before we, you know, bring up the big stick. And at that point, it's, you know, it's a long process to try to terminate a contract, you know, at the end of the year.
Any other questions, thoughts? Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your efforts.
Yes.
Move ourselves into new business at this point. So with that, I need a motion to approve the warrant reports and the claim auditors reports.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Need a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Have a few items there for information for you. An investment summary, budget revenue status reports, just there for your enjoyment and reading as you make your way through an evening. If that's what you're reading through the evening, talk to me. We'll get you some other resources.
Nothing wrong with reading that before bedtime.
Like I said, if that's what you're reading, let me know. We'll hook you up with the library and get you some books. But then we'll move on to, I need a motion to approve the reports from the Committee on Preschool Special Education. Second? Anybody?
Yeah.
Questions or comments? Mr. Moore is ready to go. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? While he's still standing, I need a motion to approve the reports from the Committee on Special Education.
So moved. Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve the disposal of items from the intermediate and high school.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to accept the donation in the amount of $500 from the Empire Alpaca Association.
So moved. Second.
Questions or comments?
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve the senior class trip to Pocono Valley Resort, June 14 to 15 of 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Those that approve?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? With that, I need a motion to approve the personnel as presented by Superintendent Turner.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That brings us to informational items.
Yes, I've got a couple. First, there's some fundraising updates from the high school. We've got the UNICEF group, the DECA group, the high school math group, and the Science Honor Society group, all doing various fundraising here as we move through the spring. And secondly, there's the OCM BOCES board member nominations. And initially, we have the pleasure of having one of our board members representing the Cortland and Homer school districts. Stacy Petrie has stepped in as the Cortland board member was unable to fulfill the term. Whereas we thought we didn't have to do any nomination if Stacy is interested in continuing, we do need to actually file a formal nomination for her, which we could do at the next board meeting. We can decide to, if you are interested in continuing, and if you are, we could have the vote tonight, and then I could just fill the paperwork out for us, or we could wait and do it all at the next meeting. We're still well ahead of the deadline to notify them is the March 21st. So.
I am.
You are-
And it's actually just a 2-year term.
2-year
because I'm
term, yes.
finishing. Everybody else on the board is a 3-year.
That's
but
right.
Mine would be a 2-year term. And I practiced my oath very hard, and I, drove up there in front of their cabinets and their attorneys, and words came out of my mouth, and so I did it, and yes, I am interested.
So I guess I would ask if you're interested in formally nominating her tonight, and I can go ahead and fill this out for you, or if you want to wait.
I would receive a motion to that effect.
So moved.
A second? Any questions or comments?
Are you enjoying
Thank you,
it?
Stacy.
So much. I'm gonna talk a little bit later about it. Lucky you guys.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
All right, so I'll fill this out and send it. Yeah. Thank you, Stacy. Appreciate that.
Well, we're at the point of our meeting where we offer community voices. I don't see anybody who's signed up to share with us. Is there anybody wishing to be heard this evening? All right.
I did not realize that was proper procedure, so I would be glad to put my name down if you'd
All
like.
right, as you get ready, I just remind us that it's a 2-minute window,
Yes,
and the board will hear questions, but we won't respond to them.
okay, that's fine. So my name is Janelle, I have 2 kids in Homer schools, one in elementary, one in intermediate. And if you can't hear me, I'm very sorry, I'm losing my voice. I do want to quickly mention the comment about the virtual learning day not having much feedback. I feel that this group and the administration and leadership gets a very tainted view of the feedback. All you have to do is jump on Facebook. Parents did not love it. We feel that the alternative plan that was come up with should have been done in September because the shortage was known about, and it has been known about for over a year. I also know you won't answer, but I'm curious to know how many people here know what the turnover rate for transportation department is at our schools. It is, if I'm doing my math correctly, it is over triple the rate that a good business would maintain with specific people in place. It is astronomical to speak to the people that work at the school and in our transportation department that don't have their voices being heard. And I typically want to get involved with business politics. However, it's trickling down and it's 100% affecting our children now. And families, I don't know why there's not a bunch here. I've personally talked to probably 20 or 30 people who are very frustrated, but they're afraid to say anything because they feel that they'll be ignored and they feel that their kids will take the backlash when they get to school, when they get on the bus and all of that. So I would be glad to talk to anybody about it. I have a lot of parents that have come to me. I have bus drivers that have come to me. I have people who have previously worked in the transportation department. They've shared their stories. I have a lot of information, and I just feel that this room needs to hear that, and they need to understand on a grand level that it's not something that's not being talked about. It's not being brought forward, but that doesn't mean it's not being talked about.
That's 2 minutes, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to be heard?
I would. So I'm Stephanie Lyon. I have a daughter in junior high and I have a son in the intermediate school. So I've had a lot of personal frustrations. My biggest thing with the situations that have occurred between both of my children, I feel stem down to the lack of communication from the staff in the schools, whether it be from the teacher level or from the administration level. And that creates an even more frustrating approach, because if I can't go, like if I have to keep following a chain of command and I'm still not getting the answer that I need, that's a problem. As far as kind of going off of what she said as far as the bus garage, I mean, I've had the same thing. I've had family members work for the bus garage. I know people that are still in the bus garage and that have left. Most parents will tell you the same thing about how that department is run, and about their interactions with certain individuals in that office. And again, this is the staff shortage in the bus garage has been since last year. And knowing that we are going into the school year with a shortage of drivers, already adjusting the times of, you know, going and coming home affected a lot of children with after-school activities. And on top of that, trying to figure that out and making sure if one's going, the other one is, you know, I have proper daycare for, or after-school care for them. And then an hour before my daughter is supposed to go to an away game, being told that it's canceled because we don't have the drivers to take them, yet the varsity teams are still going to their games, is very frustrating, and it's discouraging for the kids, especially at that age level where they're trying to get involved and trying to find out where their niche is in, you know, these kind of activities. That's also, you know, a big concern. The shortage of drivers is unfortunate, but I feel like we could have done maybe a little bit more, tried a little bit more to figure this out than when it got to this point where drivers are out due to one reason or another, we don't have anybody.
Thank you, that's 2 minutes.
Thank you.
All right, I'll stand. Sorry, I look like a mess. There were 13 hours today. I'm Nathaniel Lyon. 2 kids in the school, a lot of frustration. My mom worked for the bus garage for about 40 years. The bus garage is still the same dungeon it was when I was a little kid. We've done nothing with it. We have people that don't really understand it's a part-time job. We all know what it is. It's not really a full-time job, I get it. But we need to be competitive. We're under the average for New York State, Central New York for pay, unfortunately. Administration down there. If a kid asks what her name is and she's driving the bus, pretty sure I would want my kids to be able to know who's driving the bus. They shouldn't get told it's none of your business. That's a little frustrating as a parent. Yeah, the communication with the bus garage is rough, and it has been since last year. She's told me to call Tom Turk several times, and I have. Nothing happens. We've known about the lack of bus drivers and the issues down there since last year. I brought it to a couple people's information that, you know, board meetings or their meetings are almost coming to blows. They're so frustrated and divided. It's crazy to me. I would be fired at my job if it got that bad. Unfortunately, principals. I love our school. I love our principals. I love our teachers. When my son gets hurt at school and we have to call back 5 times and get a different answer every time, it's frustrating. We needed to get a letter for the doctor, and we got 4 different answers, and we were told we were wrong until the actual teacher who brought my son up came forward with an email and said that we weren't wrong. That's frustrating. Transparency. It's that simple. I don't know. It's pretty frustrating that we expect our kids to go to, or not to go to school, but then they're still told they need to go to practice, still told they need to go to play practice. If we can't do our job and get our kids to school, there should be no extra activities. That's crazy. That's putting all the burden on the parents, not on the school. Just, it's a little frustrating, guys.
Thank you all for taking the time to come and share with us, and we received and hear what you've had to share with us, and we'll follow up in due course with it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That will turn to any board committee reports. I know budget audit met.
We did.
Thanks, one of the members of Peg or Kevin or John.
Real similar to what we saw in the presentation earlier, you know, so we'll, no other surprises to be, you know, other than what we saw here tonight.
Yeah, second that. Yeah. Mike's doing a really good job at communicating everything, and look forward to see what else we coming through.
Do we have district committee reports?
Yes, Jeff Ebner?
Yes.
Had a meeting recently you'd like to share the update on?
Yes, the Professional Learning Committee met on February 5th. Some of you know, that's the group of volunteers that plans our 2 staff development days that we have during the year. And the last one of the year is March 31st, so it's coming right up. We met and we discussed, number one, we went over what November 5th was like, and feedback from the constituents, bring it back to the table, what worked, what didn't work. Always evaluating and reevaluating our plan. So our plan for March will be similar to the November date. We will have a number of learning sessions in the morning. A lot of that will encompass, you know, our strategic plan components. For example, every building will have to be offered a TCIS refresher, so staff that needs their refresher will have an opportunity to do that. Teachers will be engaged in curriculum, instruction, and assessment work. We're also going to put out a call for proposals for those staff members that, you know, enjoy facilitating sessions, enjoy sharing what great things are going on in their classroom. Again, we've had a number of opportunities to connect our nursing staff, to connect with outside agencies. So we're going to be looking at drug use awareness training for our nurses, and also seizure support training for our nurses, and who else would like to attend those. So we're going to be researching that. We have, in the afternoon, will be devoted to continue curriculum instruction assessment work by grade levels and content area departments, pre-K through 12. So it's very similar schedule, but it's great to see the amount of staff that believe that, you know, work has to continue. These days aren't just set aside catch-up time. It's real work that has to get done for what we have for our children. So we're excited about the day. Now comes the hard part, making it all fit on this nice schedule to send out to staff.
8-5.
That's right, that's right. Does anybody have any questions about the Professional Learning Council meeting or our staff development?
Are you gonna invite cafeteria or bus drivers or other departments to this one?
Bus drivers went to the one in the fall, so I'm not sure if they have one per year. On that land, I'm meeting with the teaching assistants on Thursday at 3:30 to better define some of their work that they want to engage in on those days as well. I have not had a chance to engage the cafeteria staff yet.
They might be interested.
Other questions for Jeff? Thanks, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, then I will entertain any board member activities.
I have some I'd like to share, and that's when we go to me. Mike, get ready. Okay, ready, Mr. Falls? So I am now on the BOCES board, and there's a couple of things that I learned that I wanted to just share very quickly. You all probably know about them, but the governor did her State of the State speech, and I'm just going to touch on 3 things. A couple of them we already do. Universal school meals. She's proposed to expand the current meals program. Agriculture program. She has a desire and it's on her desk to increase ag program in public schools and funding for that. And then there is distraction-free learning, which we talked about, and they suggested that we bring back to boards just to kind of put it on your radar, what that may look like. And you know, these are all on her desk. To my knowledge, she hasn't signed them yet, but I wouldn't. You guys would know better. But this is where you're going to be excited, Mr. Falls. I attended a state aid and finance considerations for the 2025-26 and beyond long-range fiscal analysis with.
Could you repeat that, Stacy?
Yes. I had to bring it to you. It was with Assemblyman Sturby. I know, right? Look at, see, I like this one. Assemblyman Sturby, Senator Ney, and Senator Ryan. And the setup was where all the school boards and many superintendents could ask questions of them, and they certainly did. It was really fascinating. So Senator Sturby has a proposed bill, I believe it is, but he is trying to do, right now the annual outlay is $100,000, and his projection, he's trying to, last year he also had the same bill and it didn't get any legs, so, but it's between 250 and 400, so who knows what will happen with that, but that was kind of interesting. I learned about the Rockefeller report, and one of the other cool things was there is Assemblyman Sturby has a, in his bill too, to do SROs as a base earning of their last year of their salary and not have the cap. So all interesting stuff that I'd be happy to talk to you all about if you, maybe I do need a book from the library, I don't know. And I also did the intermediate book fair today, and it was also very cool. So that's what I thought too.
A lot of spreadsheets, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot. See, harmless, there's like 4,000 pages, it was great. Very exciting. Yeah.
And the food?
The food is good. It's good.
Putting on a spreadsheet and you go on.
They needed to feed us. It was a lot.
Was it the breakfast?
Yes, yes. And I kept hearing, also I just have to share this, for the first like maybe 15 people I have Homer, oh, Tom Turk, oh, Mr. Turk, and the superintendent from Marcellus thinks you should go into broadcasting. She's already planned your retirement.
She's told me I have a face for radio.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's been super fun is that Luke, if he's listening, is still being talked about and debated. His use of Oxford commas in the halls of Lucy's. It's legendary apparently, so here I am showing out and representing. That's all.
Attended some wrestling. The boys team, they won the Section 3 Class B tournament, I think, maybe for the first time ever.
It is.
What I read,
Which is
yeah,
pretty
sounds
awesome. Qualified nine kids out of 13 weights to go to the sectionals this weekend. So that was fun. That was pretty awesome to see them do that.
I got to be part of a FFA, and it was just by chance. Two of my children were in an FFA competition in Owego, and I picked them up from the school because I had family in town, so it was a special circumstance. But Owego Elementary, stunning facility, like gorgeous. And so when they came out, I said, "You think I could go in that building and look around?" Because it was so pretty. The natural light and the soundboards. It's a beautiful facility, and I learned that it was rebuilt after the flood. And I actually lived in the southern tier when they had that 100-year flood. So I was there when Binghamton had a school that was rebuilt at that time also. But it was the first time that I had ever shared space with the FFA children, all in their dress, all these districts, and it really is the future leaders of America. Like, those children are just beautiful. They were smiling, they were happy, there wasn't cell phones. So sometimes we don't really get to see our clubs in action. And it was just by chance when I walked in, they were like, "We're doing awards now." So I told the boys, like, "I don't think you want to leave during awards, you should stay." And we had multiple children that had qualified for the next level, so they'll be going to the Adirondacks for that. But yeah, it was just a really beautiful experience to get to witness myself FFA in action. And the women that get to work with the kids truly look like they're having a wonderful day. Like, they really look content and happy, and very positive experience. So I wanted to share a little about one club that I got to check out.
A few years ago, I was in the same hotel as our youth and government folks.
Okay.
And got to see the same.
Yeah, like,
It's
I can
totally
never see
different.
them in action, but like, I would wonder how they, perform,
Yep.
for lack of a better word. But yeah.
too got to see some of our student athletes. I'm biased on one of them. Got to watch my daughter win a sectional title in weight throw last weekend. But just to all our athletes that performed well, and you could tell athletes were pushing as hard as they could because there were a lot of knocked over hurdles and all kinds of things going on. But Homer athletes always conduct themselves so well in the midst of that arena. So. All right, upcoming events.
Yes, we head into the final stages of the month of February. We have our President's Day and winter recess next week, but then come right back in March. And if you look at the calendar of events in March, a whole host of opportunities to see our kids performing in various activities, music related, music in our schools month, plenty of things to do. Hopefully you can take some of those in.
Excellent. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?